Welcome back. Here we are, Balance Experience Podcast.
Jacko, how's it going?
I'm doing pretty good, Nico. How are you on this fine Thursday?
Mate, I am fantastic. I'm looking forward to this wonderful guest that we have on today. He's someone that I'm in awe of because he's been able to transition from sport to sport to sport to sport, as well as be able to establish a successful business, if not more than one, and continue on his endeavors. And one of the things, as well as be a wonderful father and a husband. And it's something that he's really someone that is a living, breathing version of that theoretical, what does it mean to be healthy, and finding that balance in your life. And I don't know if that's the reality behind what it looks like, but Dave is a great example, and he leads that life, and he's someone that I think everyone can learn from. Mm-hmm. So Dave, welcome.
Welcome, mate.
Thanks, boys. Thanks for having me. It's very humbled. Thank you.
You're welcome.
No Kleenex around here. I see chocolates and fruit, but no tissues.
The opening wrap's always nice, isn't it?
Yeah, it's good.
Yeah, well,
you need that at the start of your day every day.
Got to buddy you up a little bit.
Can you call me up each morning?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
good morning, Dave.
Mate, you got this recording now, so
no,
make it your alarm.
You don't need me to call you. You just need my voice, like a 1 minute snip of
I just keep snoozing, so I just keep hearing it.
Yeah. Welcome, Dave. Dave, you are okay. Moving on. So, Dave, maybe do you want to give us a little rundown? Do you agree with all that? Like, is that pretty much how you've tried to live your life?
Oh, mate, they're lovely words. To a certain extent, I'll probably say yes. There's probably a little peak period in my mid-20s where I went a little bit AWOL. Mm-hmm. That professional rugby kind of really reeled me in on a Wednesday night, a Friday night, and Sunday afternoon. But yeah, pretty much like how it rolls at the moment in terms of business and training and lifestyle and family. Family's always first, and if you got the family in place, and then everything can kind of have a little domino effect. So that's kind of how we live it as a family in terms of like a whole healthy lifestyle, healthy home.
Awesome, man. That's good. So I guess where's the Dave Harvey story begin? Where should we start? I mean, we sort of did a little recap before, and obviously, like a big part of your story is your sport, right? So, where does sport fit in your life, and where did it begin initially?
Probably from the day I was born. I think there's a video of me holding a cricket bat when I was 1 or 2, and Dad's throwing a tennis ball, and I think I'm belting about 20 metres over his head.
Not bad.
Yeah, so pretty early on. I was born into a pretty good sporting pedigree family. Grandfather played 79 tests for Australia. Right. He's invincible. Probably he's the only one alive at the moment out of those lot.
That's of the Immortals team.
Yeah, 1948. Yeah, cousin played for St Kilda. Won 2 Brownlows.
Who's that?
Robert Harvey.
Oh, wow.
So
okay.
that's Grandpa's nephew.
Do you like Robert Harvey, Jack?
Is Robert Harvey's no relation to Brent Harvey, is it?
No,
different.
Okay. I think Melbourne's littered with Harveys.
Yeah, there must be. Yeah,
right. I think I'm the only one in Castle though. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, mate. So I was born into a family with a few others. A South African cousin that played for South African rugby, and
oh wow.
Yeah, I think from the get go it was probably my, story was really written on the water to do something, and rugby at under 8s. That's where it started.
Yeah, nice. Rugby union from the beginning.
It was, started at rugby. I actually wanted to play, Mum wanted me to play football, soccer. Mm-hmm. But apparently I wanted to tackle people, which, so for anyone listening that knows me, which is quite bizarre because I actually didn't do a lot of tackling in my professional career. So just taking a good little U-turn.
Yeah, nice, mate. So it sounds like, coming from a family with, enormous athletic pedigree, so, essentially born into it. When did you start seeing some success?
Funny enough, probably in cricket, to be honest, early on. My dad and my uncle grew up playing a lot of kind of rep in first grade cricket. I think you played a bit of cricket yourself, didn't you?
I played 10 years, but definitely nothing good. So I'm going to be careful how good I make myself sound.
Yeah, fair. So fair bit of pressure on them being like, for Neil Harvey being their father, which is understandable. So that kind of like took their interest away from playing at a high level. So I started playing cricket as a junior and started hitting the ball well, and I guess it was, from under 10s all the way to, I think, 16s. I think probably under 16s I started to realise that I could play the game pretty well. I think it's called Green Shield at the time.
Oh, yeah.
So we won Green Shield, Parramatta won it at the time. Phenomenal team. Then went on to play a little bit of cricket there, and then I got to a kind of fork in the road where I had to choose between footy and cricket. I think at the start, actually, when I was playing rugby, I was known for rugby at school, but I didn't even make a rep team at rugby till I made like a club rec team, but maybe I didn't even make they got like Sydney West and CHS and stuff like that at school. I didn't even make the zone team, which was like out of 5 schools in the area.
Oh, right.
It's pretty funny.
It's funny how where this ends up as well.
Yeah.
I actually went to school with, what's his name? His name's Michael Hooper. I'm not sure if you know the captain of the Wallabies. Yes.
I see him down.
I've played against him a couple of times.
I see him down at the dog park all the time. He lives around my area.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Well, he went to my school.
Yeah.
And he was probably 3 or 4 years under me. It's funny because he was in the first 15 from literally, I'm going to say year 8. Mm-hmm. And then obviously took Pius into a different stratosphere when it came to playing rugby. So it's just funny how some people's career starts like that. Now, I'd say Hooper is a bit of an anomaly. I don't think comparing anyone to Hooper is, but then at the same time, it's kind of like some people just either they late bloom or they just don't really care that much at the beginning. Yeah. So did you feel like you should have been selected for...
I did go to performing arts school, so that might have something to do with it.
Did you?
Sure.
I went to Northmead. My sister was at the time.
Oh, it was okay.
Yeah,
It was
no,
a
I
performing arts
didn't
school.
dance. So I was just...
I was like...
My sister was there,
Excuse
so I
me?
went along.
You lost all that
We're missing a
flexibility.
big part of the story.
Yeah. All the flexibility is gone. No, I did care, actually. That was the funny thing. So I did care from a young age.
Yeah.
I played... It was a public school system, so they didn't really have a good pathway in a sport. And then I played opens, they called it at the time, so it was juniors open. So I played opens from year 7. So I played knockout comps and other comps. And but yeah, I probably cared too much at the time. It's probably where my personality is at the moment, in probably caring a lot for stuff, probably some stuff that I shouldn't be caring about. Okay. But yeah, so I did care a fair bit. Cared a lot about the both, and as I said, ended up getting into a fork in the road where I kind of had to choose and had to, figure out which one I would like to try to, make a living out of.
What was it about rugby union then, as opposed to cricket?
I don't know, like my stepdad at the time, who we spoke about, a bit of a twat, shout out. He was
listening, mate.
Yeah. I don't know where he lives, mate. So it'd be good. Yeah, we'll get to him somehow. No, he had a rugby background. I think he played at Eastwood, a bit of 3rd grade. So he loved the sport, and we were living in Camera at the time. So that was like
North Shore boy.
Yeah, so that was like North Sydney Mossman. That was definitely not rugby league territory. And
no, that's Union.
Yeah, so we got into Union then, and then played up until I think under. Funny enough, that same year we won Green Shield for Parramatta. We won the under 16s state cup for Parramatta for rugby as well.
Oh right.
Yeah, so Parramatta dominated North Fronts.
You're really so you played Parramatta. No, you were in Parramatta.
I played for Parramatta, yeah,
in
at the time.
Both Green Shield and rugby.
And rugby, yeah.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
So you were playing as a through the 15, 16-year-old sort of adolescent cricket. Green Shield is kind of like the Sydney pinnacle.
Okay.
Or like a lot of kids strive to make Green Shield sides. And then obviously what was the other cup? Sorry.
I think it was a state cup or something. Yeah, so it's the Sydney club rugby teams that play now, but it's their junior program. So it goes from under 10s to 16s.
So high level at both.
Yeah, right. Okay. So we had this chat before, about actually rugby league and rugby union, and in New South Wales and in Australia, there's the private school stigma with rugby union. How did you go from obviously being involved in the public school system was there that stigma there?
That's
or
true.
is that
Mate.
is that true, or
Really?
is that
Okay, so
It's
perceived.
true. What colour's the table? It's white.
Yeah.
Very true.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's mate. Yeah, it was very rife. What years are we talking about? Very, very rife from the early 2000s. Probably, to be honest, to only about 3 or 4 years ago.
Right.
Yeah.
As in, you'd be shunned if you weren't a private school boy?
Yeah, so I can only put a hand.
Wow.
I can only think of a handful of non, and I'm sure there's more, but I can only think of in the years that I grew up. So I think I finished school in '99, and then played a little bit of Colts rugby. And so when I went into first grade, I think it was 2003. I was 17, 18, so it would have been 2002 maybe. There was only one player that was not a private school player, and that was Tatafu Pilota now, who went on to play 110 times for Australia. And he was the only non-private school rugby player, I think, within the Wallabies at that time or in the system. I could be wrong, but yeah, mate, it's extremely rife. It's a prime example was skipping out a few years here. It was 2011. I won what was called the Ken Catchpole Medal, which is like the Daily M of rugby.
Right.
So I was lucky enough to win that twice and finished third 4 times.
Wow.
But in 2011, the year I won it, and then the rookie of the year got the Super Rugby contract for 3 years, then I didn't get anything at that time. So there's no bitter feelings at all. Everyone knows me. I'm just like, yeah, whatever, it happens. But that was kind of like, oh, okay, the private school system is still pretty strong.
Just made it harder for you coming through, I guess, that you weren't.
I think I blame my dad because I was enrolled in Shaw, but he didn't want to pay the bills. Shout out to Dad. He's an ex-Shaw boy.
Okay,
so I blame him for my lack of early entry into elite rugby.
Yeah, interesting.
Well, I'll tell you what. I don't know. Like I've literally only just been discussing kids with my wife recently, and the thought of the private school fees.
Oh, mate. Well, my wife works in the
Brutal.
private. My wife works for Barker College, and she went to Barker College. I mean, $30,000 a year.
Yeah,
It's
pretty nuts.
It's not a joke.
And
good schools.
oh
Very
yeah, 100%. But I mean, that's a massive
Not
expense.
good for the pocket.
Yeah,
No, I did
definitely.
some teaching when I graduated from uni. I did some teaching at King's, and
Did you?
I taught there for probably for about 6 to 8 months, and full-time job came up, and I decided to travel Europe, and that's where I ended up playing footy in Europe. So it's not a bad idea, but I can see where the fees goes. State-of-the-art gym, and they're feeding every teacher and every kid breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and
No doubt it's going somewhere,
yeah,
Oh, of course.
but
yeah.
it's still a lot of money.
Yeah.
it is. Yeah.
And it's interesting if that culture is still around in the rugby union world, or if it's starting to.
I think it's started from what I've seen of late. I think a lot of people are getting a well-deserved go through results and ability.
I think one
That's good to see.
one player at the moment who stands out, who maybe breaks that mold a little bit too, is Quade Cooper. Someone who had not a private school upbringing and maybe a little bit rough around the edges as well. He'll be the first one to say it. Yeah. So.
Didn't he have a go in the league as well? Rugby league came over to league for a bit.
I think he's
So,
trying to.
I
Yeah,
think
there's those chats about
I don't
it.
think he did very well.
He's got a lot of raw talent.
Yeah, definitely. So, I mean, with rugby union and in terms of like breaking into professional rugby union, how old were you?
Mate, I was old. Or I probably did things a little bit backwards, actually. A lot of people play their career here in Australia, then they go to Europe. I went to Europe pretty young, so I think I would have been 21, 22, and one of the players at Parramatta played for Tonga at the World Cup. He's like, I've got a contact in Europe. Do you want to go? So yeah, said I'll go. Went over for 3.5 months, pretty low division. Had the best time of my life. It was fantastic. Didn't drink before I got there, and then borderline alcoholic when I got back. It's amusing. We had won a cup final at Twickenham. Played really well. So I ended up doing about 3 to 4 seasons back to back in England. So that was my first probably foray into professional rugby. UK, so I would have been pretty young, like 21, 22, 23, although and then came back and thought it's time to settle in Australia and try and do some more here.
Okay.
So I stayed here for about 4 or 5 years, played Australian sevens, which was pretty cool. Got to travel the world a little bit, and
Wow.
I tell you what, sevens is
That's a brutal. That would be brutal.
yeah. You play 6 to 7 games on a weekend. I'd rather play 2 80-minute games back to back. It's tough.
How long are the rugby sevens games?
7.5, so 14 minutes. and you
That's all you'd be able to tolerate.
You can't do any more. Even 7, mate. So it's
How far are you running in 7 minutes on the field?
I couldn't tell you. We didn't use GPSs when I was playing for Australia, but when I played for Brazil, we did, but I couldn't understand what they're saying. So you do a lot. You do a lot, and it's all top end. So you're looking at 85, 90% of your heart rate
for 7 minutes.
Heart rate for 7 minutes.
That's brutal.
With a minute or two break.
Takes a certain level of athleticism.
And the contact's much more brutal because it's one-on-one. You have to hit hard.
Yep.
If you miss, you
and then you've got to be skillful at the same time.
Yeah.
Yep. That's elite.
Yeah. Anyway, so then from there, I was lucky enough to play Super Rugby when I was 29. So you'd say late bloomer maybe, or just I got lucky. I guess I was in France at the time, playing professional rugby in France, and the guy from Western Force actually got sacked because he was stealing money out of his teammates' lockers.
Oh, what?
No way.
You're joking.
So look, and that's how I got my opportunity.
Oh,
so
there you go.
Sometimes.
How did you find the life of a traveling or not being in your home country? How did you find that sort of life? Being a professional athlete and living away from home.
Mate, good question, because I think a lot of people think it's all diamonds and roses, and the first 2 to 3 months are phenomenal. You fly over there, you got your suitcase, you got whatever you need, you like new country, new surroundings.
You think you're a mad dog?
Yeah. Your
sure.
bee's knees, you get put up in a house, you go pick up your car, you're like, this is your car. Like, they paid in the UK, sponsored by Peugeot. I was like, sweet, how good's this? I lived in the centre of Milan for a year in Italy. And
that sounds so awesome.
Yeah, it was pretty cool.
Single
but
man.
after 3 months, you're like, all right, this is not what we're used to. This is not the lifestyle, the language barrier. You kind of cling on to a few mates. And some of my best mates I actually met overseas.
Right.
The rugby was good. Traveling Europe is sensational because you're an hour and a half, 2 hours away from most places. Lifestyle, amazing, but it's not home. For me, it wasn't home. I loved it, but it wasn't. It was almost a grind from month 4 to like month 8. But the first 4 months were great, and that probably showed in a lot of foreigners' performances. They either love it and excel, or they start off really well and then they kind of like plateau out.
So it's different. It's not even how good you are at the game. It's how good you can deal with life as an athlete, like everything that's involved as an athlete. Like, it can turn you into I can understand after dealing with many athletes in my career why athletes sometimes come across like dickheads.
Oh yeah.
Because people, they get treated like an object.
Yeah. Yep. So I guess in the professional sporting world, there's your job's not safe. So I'll go back to Super Rugby for a minute. So I went into Super Rugby setup, which was pretty cool because I made my debut in Sydney, so playing for Perth. Funny enough, I went over, played a trial match for them, the game before, I think, round 2 of the Super Rugby season. Played really well, got on a plane the next morning, flew back to Sydney because I didn't hear anything, because I was sweet, I'll go home now. I'd just been back from France for 7 days.
Oh, wow.
Flew back to Sydney. On the way back to Sydney, I got a voicemail from the coach going, mate, where are you? We need you in Perth. Got back on a plane on the Monday morning the next day.
Holy moly.
Moved to Perth, and then he's like, sweet, you're gonna start at fullback, and we're playing in Sydney. So I went back to Sydney on Wednesday. So
Holy moly.
Three return trips in 3 days. So I got to
from
make
France.
Yeah, France.
Oh,
France to Sydney, Sydney to Perth, Perth to Sydney, Sydney to Perth, Perth to Sydney, Sydney to Melbourne, Melbourne to Perth.
And how secure in your career are you feeling now?
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah.
But that was pretty cool. Got to make my debut.
More time in the air than you have on the field.
Oh, mate, freaking flies. Made my debut in front of my family, in front of my friends. It was pretty cool.
That's cool.
So I didn't have to fly
Rugby.
anywhere.
Yeah.
But mate, the professional setup, it's crazy. It's not what. It's great because you're doing what you love, but it's not exactly what most people think it is. Your video analysis, it's cutthroat. You play one bad game, you might not be in the team the next week.
Yes.
And if your replacement, say, if you're my replacement and you play well, then I'm like, crap. I'm just going to watch you kick goals all day.
We have spoken about this on another podcast, but you develop friendships in these teams, right?
Yeah, massively, yeah.
However, you're competing against each other really when it comes down to it.
Yeah, definitely. Like I don't think you ever hate someone in your team. And it's funny enough because I got along really well with most of the guys in my position, or that were directly competing with you. Probably because we spent a lot of time with them. But on the flip side, you're competing with them because there's almost like 3 players per position. So, but if you can play a few positions, you've probably got a little edge. But yeah, definitely competing with them all the time. But then you've also got to compete with them. Through your recovery, through your rehab, through your video analysis of your game, through the video analysis of the game coming up, what your opposition player is doing, what you're doing.
So what's a video analysis comprise of? Like, it sounds like it's an important part. It'd be like me analysing the performance of the clinic.
Yeah.
It'd be like you need to be super objective. Is that like what are you breaking down? Like,
so usually what we'll do, so let's just say we played Saturday night. Sunday would be off. If we were playing away, we'd have to check in for medicals, do a recovery, recovery session in the pool. If we're playing at home, we usually get Sunday off, chill out, and then Mondays we'll check in, do another medical, and then we'll sit there in the cinema room, and we'll just watch the video. And we're like, sweet. The coaches would break it up, and these are the good stuff we did. These are the bad stuff. These are our work-ons. We should have done this here. Your body position's wrong. If you were a little bit more angled to your right, or you took the ball to the line a little bit more, then that creates space, for X, Y, Z. And then that'd be Mondays, and then we'd go on the field, do weights, and then come back Tuesday, and then probably Tuesday afternoon we'll start to look at the other team. But before that, they'd have a room like this that we're in now, and there'd be computers all around. You could load up your game and just watch your highlights. And then you'd have to critique your own game as well.
Oh, you would?
Yeah, make notes and relay it back to the coaches.
Were you? Because sometimes when I watch myself back on a video, when I've done like some sort of instructional or something, I'm literally like, sometimes I don't want to watch it. Would you be sometimes watching yourself playing, going,
yeah, sometimes
you idiot?
What are you doing? I remember we were playing a game. Actually, we were playing the Rebels and. We watched the video analysis, and he's like, Dave, what were you doing? I was like, I don't know. A bloke made a break.
Exposed,
yeah. A bloke made a break, and he was through, and then all I had to do was support him, and I just stood there and was like, good break.
I always remember the biggest spray I've ever copped off anyone was in my very short experience with, professional sport, but like. I always remember I was 10 minutes late to a video, like a video meeting, and I've never copped a bigger spray. Like the amount of secrecy they hold around these videos, I don't know if it was the same in rugby union, but like I absolutely copped it from my coach for being 10 minutes late that day. It's like it's
in front of the team?
In front of the team, yeah. It's like this. It's like this. It's valued really highly in professional sport. And something I was actually listening to recently was the Melbourne Storm, who are sort of benchmarked as the example in rugby league. They've actually started their video analysis. They don't actually watch the game; they just watch training, and they reward efforts in training now, which is pretty cool to hear as well. So
that does make sense because if your effort levels are high in training, if your effort levels are high in training, you're going to carry that. That learned experience into the game.
Of course, the games are going to pan out the way you want them to.
Yeah, exactly. So they're actually not analysing any of the actual game, which is
that's good.
Pretty cool to hear. Yeah.
Well, it's also backed in the research where even with rehab, video analysis is a great external tool that you can use to provide your client with feedback on what they're doing right and wrong. And same goes with the sports teams. Like of course you're going to get feedback on what you've done right and wrong. Like that's, what you did in that moment. You weren't thinking about X, Y, and Z. You can see the moment in front of you.
It's just another cutthroat nature of professional sport, right? Like you get exposed.
But even not a professional sport. So I did a bit of coaching 2 years ago. I coached as an assistant at first grade at Gordon, so back where I was playing club rugby. And every Sunday, or over the weekend, by Monday afternoon, I'd have to cut up all the kicking opportunities throughout the game. So all the broken play kicking, kickoffs, and shots at goal. And I'd have to, do a couple of good ones, but do a couple of work-ons, not bad ones, always called them work-ons, and then provide feedback of what we should have done in that position. And this is at a semi-professional level, just to gear them up so when they do go in the professional environment, they're not getting an absolute rude shot.
So I'd be interested, and we spoke about it a little bit before, but throughout your like professional rugby career, what your experience with strength and conditioning was.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, so very interesting. So I remember probably the first first experience was this English dude who was just massive. Probably to cut it short, I've had about 2 good trainers in my whole career. And I've played for a lot of clubs, if everyone's listening, and everyone knows that. And those guys really knew what they were on about. One guy called Darren Clunt. He was phenomenal. He was early on, about 2007, 2008. And then, funny enough, the Brazilian guys. Looking back on them,
the Brazilian national,
Brazilian national sevens and 15 side. Their strength and conditioning program was phenomenal. Something that I probably didn't buy into as much as I should have, because I always thought that everyone in Australia knew a little bit more about that kind of stuff. But no, I thinking back on it now, at the time, you put a lot of trust in these guys.
Yes.
But looking back on it now, it's like, well, no, I didn't need to bench press the whole time. I didn't need to do, lat pull down. I didn't need to deadlift and squat the most. It needed to be a practical movement. It needed to be a skill. I need to learn movements that were needed in the sport or in their everyday life.
Yes.
But we never really had a bad. I actually had some horrible people in France. I had this physio once to just put his hands above my belly and just kept him there. Didn't touch it.
Reiki.
Wow.
Yeah.
What? For how long?
6 minutes.
Employed by the club.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
Yeah.
What were they
I had a sore
thinking?
back. That's when I probably first hurt my back.
Transferring their energy.
And he was just like, Mr. Miyagi.
Wow.
I was like, he's like, you bet? I'm like, no.
Yeah.
Thanks.
So he just, and this is at a club.
Professional.
Unbelievable.
They're about 5 or 6. Maybe he was just the mindset guy. But
Was he a psychologist there?
Actually, maybe you're just working for that day. You just come in from the
feeling.
But strength and conditioning. I wouldn't say bad experiences, but I wouldn't say I learned a lot. I've learned more in the last probably 4 to 6 years through my business, through my own learning, through my own research, through you guys. Probably more through you guys, to be honest, than I have over a course of 10 or so years of training. I was never taught how to squat properly. I was never taught how to deadlift properly. I definitely wasn't taught how to clean properly. You don't need snatching in football anyway, but I definitely not taught how to do stuff like that. We weren't taught mobility or the importance of rolling and recovery. As I think I mentioned off air, that our recovery used to be after the game. Let's do 10, 20 metre jog throughs and have a stretch and go in the sheds. And the next day,
That's definitely an area that's become much more popular in the last couple of years, is how well athletes recover, sleep, nutrition. And 10, 15 years ago.
Yeah, even nutrition.
Yeah.
Like I remember when I was playing rugby league for the Bunnies for South Sydney a long time ago when I was young, before I kind of went to cricket, then we went to rugby. And
just that time played for the Bunnies.
Just that time.
So we were there, and the nutrition guy came in.
Club.
He probably changed. Changed my mindset. But mate, I was eating like 8. From his advice, I used to get to Winston Hill shops. So to go to Bunnies training, I used to get a bus from Balkan Mills.
Yes.
To Parramatta Station, get on the train, go to Redfern, then go to Erskineville, and then go to training, and then go home the exactly same way. 4 days a week.
That's
it was
brutal.
Just because my mum liked the Bunnies, I did it for a year.
Are you guys Bunny supporters?
Mum's a fanatic.
Mum's
number plate says BUNN13 Bunny.
Bunny.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. She was on a billboard at Mascot at the airport.
Why?
With like one of those RTA My Plates South Sydney.
Oh,
Oh, you're kidding. There you go.
We drove past one day. I was like, "Hey, Mum,
Was it
you're
red
up
and
there."
red and green as well?
The car?
No, the number plate.
Yeah, it's one of those
red and
team
green,
number plates.
personalised.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
Yeah, but I used to go to Winston Hill Shops, buy 6 white bread rolls, 3 bananas, brown sugar, and have 6 sandwiches on the way to training. Just because I was told to carb load as much as I could.
Well, that's definitely some carb loading right there.
You had the
Holy
time to
moly.
do that by the sounds of it,
Yeah.
I sat on the train and ate my banana sandwiches.
That's what an athlete does.
Yeah,
You do
apparently.
some wonderful things when you're an athlete.
Hmm.
What would you do differently then? If you looked at yourself as a hang on, if you looked at yourself as a 20-year-old, you're in Europe, 21, 22.
Now in 2020.
Yeah. So pretend like let's teleport you back,
Because
but in 2020.
In 2020, because I was going to say, what do I do differently back then? I actually wouldn't do anything because I'm pretty happy where I am at the moment, which is pretty cool.
Well, it's led you here. Yeah, that's right.
But yeah, it's got me to where I am,
Yeah.
family and business and brewed coffee. I'd research. I'd do more. I'd learn. That's what I tell my clients. They're like, there's not one diet or one, I don't even call it diet. There's not one lifestyle and nutrition that is right for everyone. You know, like I would, and this is, you taught me this. It's like not everyone kind of has to squat the same way. Everyone's hips are different. You know, my mobility, my ankle's poor. I'd probably learn more and I'd experiment. I was like, well, take notes. That's worked for me really well. I felt like this after I trained.
Yeah.
I felt like this after I played. And then on the flip side, I used to train Friday night before I played a game on Saturday.
Right.
Like in the weight room.
If I had that, if I had my time over again, I wouldn't have trained after Wednesday or Thursday morning.
Yes.
And if I was playing on Saturday, even Thursday, I probably would have done some light stuff, mobility, maybe some light explosive stuff, and did nothing for the rest of the day. Nothing Friday.
Did you ever take a diary? Like use a diary?
No, nothing. I would have taken notes. Would have mapped everything. Would have tracked numbers. I would have researched probably. I wouldn't have researched everyone because everyone has a bloody opinion in 2020.
Yes.
I would have researched people that are like-minded to myself, who kind of fit within my bubble, and then I would have adopted what they thought was right.
Yes.
And then I would have probably tried to implement that into lifestyle training, playing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, you definitely.
Sorry, you're going to.
No, you definitely as an athlete. So what I've heard, you need to do the research, you need to experiment, you need to take notes.
Yeah.
I think in your early 20s as well, you're just not asking questions enough. Like to strength and conditioning coaches, to physios, just not questioning, just trusting.
Yeah. Well, most of the guys you're playing around, more experienced. Some big names. Like even when I was 29, going to the Western Force, like I'd go into training and like there's people like David Pocock there who, the best probably. If not as good as Hooper or on the same page, maybe even better, at his time. And we had 8-9 Wallabies there who I got along really well, but it's like, why would I question anything? Like,
Pocock's a machine as well.
I'm doing
what he's doing.
Yeah, I'm doing what they're doing.
Yeah.
So I was like, what, if it's right for them, it's right for me.
Yeah.
But
that's the thing as well in clubs. Like there is a bit of a generalised approach to training. Like there's however many blokes in a squad. You can individualise as much as you want, but there's one S&C mostly to clubs,
which that's interesting. Yeah, yeah. I know. I work with the Roosters, and I know that they've got a head of performance, but I know that there's several people working and reviewing the program all the time, and they've even got externals coming in as well.
Are they?
That don't quote me on, but yes, they on and off work with people externally too. So it's like I think there's full transparency, but then it's not one person only that is in charge of the program. It's got to be
because that one person's ideas might be quite I wouldn't say narrow-minded, but tunnel-visioned.
Yeah. And plus, you've got a 30-man squad. Like, how are you supposed to have such a diverse range of understanding and knowledge to be able to know where every one of those 30 are at without dividing and conquering with a team?
Yeah,
true.
The team has to be controlled by a team, surely. Yeah. Man, so, well, now what? I mean, you played rugby union. You then said you played for Brazil?
Yeah, I was lucky enough to play for Brazil. So, mum's Brazilian. So, I think... So Brazil held the Olympics 2016, which I was supposed to go on, but things I wouldn't say took a turn for the worse. I made a pretty calculated decision not to go.
Okay.
But no, yeah, mum was Brazilian. Mum was born in Brazil. Grandparents were born in Brazil. So they made contact with me somehow when I was playing Super Rugby and figured out I was Brazilian, and that they got me in and it's like, want you to come over, train with us. and then we'll put you in the Olympic squad. So it's pretty much a free ticket to the Olympics. So
Wow.
2014, I went to Brazil for the World Cup. I opened F45 Castle Hill in May 2014, at the end of May. 4 days later, I went to Brazil for 6 weeks.
Jeez Louise.
Which is already booked. We're supposed to open in February, but I blame Hills Council. So I went over. So we pretty much didn't do anything for 6 weeks at Castle Hill. So I went to Brazil, went to the World Cup, FIFA World Cup, enjoyed that, trained with them, and then went on the Sevens circuit with them, which was pretty cool. Played some test matches, played some 15-a-side games, which was a good experience.
Awesome.
Something that I didn't get to do playing for Australia. So everyone's
Yeah.
rugby plays gold to play for Australia, but I was actually the first ever player in Sevens rugby history to play for 2 nations.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So Brazil Sevens and
Played
Australia
Australian
Sevens.
Sevens and then played Brazil Sevens. Yeah.
Wow.
Awesome.
That's pretty freaking
Yeah,
awesome.
they changed the law, so you had to wait 2 years. 2 years before you play for another country, so they changed it, which I was lucky enough, I got through.
There you go.
But yeah, that's
Well done.
and then I supposed to go to the Olympics 2016, so I actually snapped my ankle my first Sevens tournament, which was, we scored the try and felt something go really weird. I still got the photo.
What was the injury?
A lot. I think I pretty much ruptured, I think, 4 or 5 ligaments to the ankle. So I had lateral ankle reconstruction. I think deltoid ligament was in half, which I actually don't think they repaired. And then screw fixation through syndesmosis. So I remember getting the MRI. Actually, I did the injury and
You did everything.
Yeah, I did everything. Yeah, yeah. The
Inside, outside, and through the middle.
Yeah, they got an in-goal judge at Sevens. He's like, "Come on, mate, move." I'm like,
Yeah.
"Beat it, I can't
Yeah,
move."
yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
anyway, so I kind of like army crawled off.
That's all your passive structures in your ankle, nearly.
Yeah,
A lot of them.
There's nothing
Yeah,
really left.
so army crawled off, put a boot on. I went to the medical
ankle
room.
could be
Yeah.
flopping around.
Yeah, got on the blower, put a boot on.
The green whistle.
There was no
Yeah.
there was no dislocation.
Nah, walked out.
Yeah.
Woke up the next
Wow.
morning, went to the after party. Woke up the next morning, it was huge.
Yeah.
Like purple. Saw the physio. He goes, "I think it's a bad sprain."
Okay.
I was like, anyway, I had to flew home.
Thank you for that.
Yeah, thanks, buddy. So
I think
flew
it's a
home,
bad sprain.
Took his advice. So
He wasn't wrong.
Yeah, it's a very bad sprain.
Accurate.
Yeah, but fun.
Yeah.
Like, flew home. We flew business class, which was good. So the feet was up. Flew directly to Sydney. Went back to work. So I went to F45. And limped around. Walked on it for about 8 days. I'm like, this is not right. This is very, very painful. Got an MRI. They only showed the lateral and the deltoid that was gone. Didn't show the syndesmosis. I think it's just too much swelling.
Too much swelling.
Yeah. And then I woke up to
Wow.
the surgeon going. The first words I heard was screw fixation. So that was about nine months out. Yeah. So mobility scooter
Wow.
for three months.
It's a massive surgery. People usually know when they've done something more than just a normal sprain to the ankle.
Yeah.
Every syndesmosis injury I've dealt with, the person is usually like, there's something weird about this one.
Yeah.
That's
I've had the
what
same
they say.
experience,
Yeah.
And that weird feeling is that comes about
That's
a bit
your-
later as well. I find
That's
like
your
around the
tib
6
fib
to 8
separating.
around the 6 to 8
Yeah.
week mark. They're like,
Yeah.
oh, something's not right.
Yeah.
If they hadn't had the diagnosis yet.
Mine was about 2 weeks later. I was actually had my foot up resting. I was doing a bit of teaching at Crestwood High, and I'm teaching Joel. Crestwood High, and I thought, I'm in pain. I actually went home, and the head teacher from P is like, "Mate, you can't go home." I'm like, "Mate, I'm going home."
So you're a teacher.
Yeah, I did my teaching degree, so I graduated Bachelor of Physical Education. So just in case,
Oh, you're a PE teacher.
Just in case I got injured playing rugby, so I had a little backup.
There you go.
Yeah,
Did that cross over with the 45?
no,
No,
really,
before.
like,
Yeah. Gotcha.
long before. I graduated in 2002.
Oh,
Okay.
wow.
So I did a fair bit of teaching on and off between Europe and footy here. So just casual, never had a full-time job.
Cool.
Got really sore. I was like, something wasn't right. And my tib and fib were miles apart. You're talking like 2-3 inches apart.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, that's I think that might be why. Depending on how they fixate it, you may or may not need to fix the deltoid.
Yeah, so they didn't. I actually got the screw out though, so they put the screw in.
Yeah.
And because I wanted to go back to playing, because I wanted to go to the Olympics, the surgeon took the screw out. He was a legend. I think his name's Dr. Quo.
Yeah, Rod Quo.
Yeah.
He's in the hills.
Yeah, so I got him off one of the guys at Cronulla Sharks. I
Yep.
think he did a couple of boys there, and I called him up on the 16th of December, I think, or maybe 18th of December. He's like, "I'm going on holidays on the 23rd. you're booked in for the 22nd.
Well,
got me in 4 days later.
Yeah, like
before his ski trip.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was it's an interesting one. It kind of led my passageway to all my injuries.
Yeah.
And that was first big injury.
My
you were
first
saying,
ever injury, so
which is
what
pretty
was it,
incredible.
2012. I would have.
How old were you? Yeah.
32.
32
Yeah, right.
and first major injury.
32. Yeah. 32. I actually didn't miss. I missed one game in my whole career through an AC joint.
Yep.
Wow.
And then that was probably a good 14 seasons at club rugby and Super Rugby.
That's a good run.
And then
It's
Europe
a great
as well.
run.
Yeah.
And this we've touched on this a number of times, Jacko, and sometimes like just that you're gonna like you're true born because you're not getting injured. Like you're basically bulletproof and like you can do whatever you want.
Yeah.
And you're not falling apart. You've got the right leverages, you've got the right athleticism, you've got the right tissues, you've got the right mindset. And like
I think that comes back to like family as well. It's like kind of my upbringing and through the history of the family. And
so if that's the first obstacle, surely that's not the only obstacle.
no, most of the other obstacles were mental, mate. To be honest,
okay.
probably still a little bit scarred from it to a certain extent.
Okay.
Early on, like my mindset from sport was like I want to play professionally. I remember at school, like everyone would pick on you because you wanted to be an athlete. You want
Really?
to play. Yeah, it's a little bit different back.
Well, you're at a performing arts school.
Yeah, but most of hardly any of them were there performing. Like there was a niche for that, but there's another just your everyday Joe.
What sort of things would they pick on you in terms of?
Oh, just like I'd try and do well in PE and try and excel at the sport I do, and they'd be like, "Oh, mate, look at you trying too hard" and stuff like that.
Oh, shit.
Mate, back in my day, they had gymnastics. If I had my time again, I would have done gymnastics. I would have done everything.
Yes.
And
I hear that very often.
Yeah.
A lot of athletes now would say, if I had my time again, I'd probably go do gymnastics. I hear that
gymnastics,
all the time.
dancing, like everything that was frowned upon when I was at school.
Yes.
And made to look like you were like below everyone else. I wouldn't even say girl because girls are stronger and more mobile and more athletic than most men. So that probably started off then, and then it kind of led into through my whole career. So I was lucky enough to play first grade when I was 18 for Parramatta.
Okay.
Actually was the first ever shoot shield player to wear white boots.
League.
Where?
Union.
Yeah, so I played rugby union. I played rugby league for the Bunnies.
The white
under
boot
18s,
thing was
yeah.
a massive thing.
Oh, mate, it was a TV game as well,
Yeah.
ABC, and they're like, who is this kid? Why is he wearing white boots?
I remember my old man never let me wear
Ronaldo.
white boots when I was playing footy.
There's no black boots anymore.
Yeah, that's right.
They're pink and they're yellow and they're green. But I actually did all right. I got man of the match and scored 22 points with white boots. So I don't think I ever wore black boots ever.
Wow.
And then
Now you don't even notice what colour the boots are.
no, it's just if they're not,
Wear
if
whatever.
they're
I
black,
remember
you
seeing
actually
him-
notice black. They're like, oh, why is he wearing black boots?
Yeah, it's boring.
Yeah,
yeah.
just boring.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, and I guess from there, I was thinking it was challenging. I was light. I was 74 kilos, 75 maybe, 76 playing first grade rugby, and I remember one of the coaches wanted me in the Waratahs setup. And every, the Waratahs home team, I'd go to rugby games when I was a young kid and watch the Waratahs. And I got the feedback. Someone said, mate, you're too small. You need to get heavier. So I was like, all right, I'll do what you asked me to do. And I got up to 85, 86 kilos.
What'd you put on? How much? 15?
No, about 10 to 12 kilos of good
Short
weight.
time
So
frame.
I lifted, pretty short time frame. Probably about a season.
Yeah.
Lifted pretty heavy, mate. I was squatting heavy, like really heavy, like much more than I can actually squat now.
Yes.
Wow. And probably not the right way.
Yeah.
So we're talking 220 on the bar.
Yeah, it's heavy.
That's too heavy. I do that now and I'll turn into an accordion.
Fair enough.
But yeah, so like I got heavy and put on weight. I didn't lose too much of like my skill set in terms of kicking. And then I said, sweet, I'm at the weight you want me to be. They're like, no, we don't want you.
Yeah.
Wow.
And so then
Because a professional sport is a game of now as well. Like you need to be available now, and whatever we need right now is what you need to be.
So I kind of, rather than taking that, and being disheartened, I took it on the chin. I was like, sweet, I'll prove you wrong. Left Parramatta and went to Gordon to try and get more recognition.
Yes.
Left to like a mid-table club. Did pretty well there for a couple of years, and then 2008 we killed it. 2008, 2009 we destroyed the comp. We actually lost. We led the semi-final by 10 points with 2.5 minutes to go, and we lost.
Oh man.
They bought 3 Wallabies off the bench.
Suicide.
We lost.
Yeah.
Nonetheless, I won Player of the Year that year in 2008. Super excited. So sweet, this is my calling. Contract time, nothing. 2009 came third, nothing. 2010 came third in Player of the Year, got nothing.
Why?
2011, I won the Player of the Year again, and my agent called me up. He's like, do not be a prick to the media. Daily Telegraph was there, and they're like, so do you think you deserve a Super Rugby contract? I was like, yeah, I do. And I was pretty blunt in a nice way. You know, I can be a little bit,
Of course.
a little bit.
But I would be too.
Yeah.
At that point, you're sort of like, well, I'm not getting anywhere by being nice.
I think I was fed up.
Yeah.
Melbourne Rebels brought in a team at that time, and they made a shortlist of 120 players, and I wasn't on the shortlist.
Yes.
And there's no other club. So for those guys that don't know much about club rugby, there's no other club rugby in Australia. There's Brisbane, which is not massive. There's Perth, which is minimal, but everything's in Sydney. It's on TV.
Shoot Shield.
Yeah, Shoot Shield. And that's where they usually pick from, and that's where we spoke about the private school pathway.
Yeah.
Is that they're plucking them out of private school straight from year 12 into the setup, and then they'll just graduate them from there into the team.
So do you reckon that was some of that leftover maybe stereotyping or prejudice that was still there from
I think so, yeah. I think a lot of coaches be like, all right, well,
favourites?
why wasn't he in the team then? I think questions get asked is like, well, why wasn't he in the team 5 years ago?
And that carries on with you rather than just them looking at you on merit.
Yeah.
They're just sort of like,
and that
well,
happened
let's
to
have a look at his history.
That happened to a lot. So our team in 08-09, we finished second, and we did a lot of damage in that competition. And looking back from those squads, I think only myself and one other went on to play Super Rugby.
Oh, really?
Right.
Out of about a squad of 17.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
So it sounds like it is very real then.
Yeah.
This whole thing. So,
Interesting.
Yeah, for sure. So I guess let's fast forward to the next part of your life, which is after footy. But before we do, like when you did eventually retire from rugby union, how did you find it? Did you find it easy to retire?
I think I did, yeah. So post-injury, I made a comeback, got injured again, was still chasing the Olympic dream, I guess. And then it would have been, we played Canada, and then I was in Hong Kong, played Hong Kong Sevens, and the end of Hong Kong Sevens, I signed a contract to move to Brazil at the end of June and only stay there for July and play the Olympics in August and come home. At the end of March, the coach said, we need you in Brazil in 2 weeks and you've got to stay there.
Oh,
Yeah.
change the game.
Yeah, and I was like, no, I can't do that. I've just opened a new business. And he's like, no, you have to be in there. So I went back, had a thought. I said, if I leave and the business crashes, all I've got is Olympic ring tattoo on my arm.
Yeah.
And then that's it.
Wow.
So I made the decision. I said, no, I'm out. So he's like, sweet. So they take a squad of 12. He goes, you're 13th man. If someone gets injured, you're in. I was like, well, I've got a bit of a chance. And then I think up until 2006, I was playing club rugby. Still played a little bit of club rugby. Just to keep myself fit. And the coach called me up with about 2 weeks to go before Olympics. He goes, one of the players has strained his hamstrings. I was like, ooh. And then he goes, we'll know in 2 to 3 days, how bad it is.
Yeah.
And he called up, he said, it's not bad. I said, right, not a problem. So I settled with my decision. And then, that's pretty much when I made the call. I was like, all right, well, it's not meant to be. I've chosen my pathway now.
And you already had this set up before.
Yeah. So I chose it, and I was a bit annoyed that it was gone against our original agreement. But at the end of the day, I look back now, then we wouldn't have had my daughter.
Wow.
Same time.
Yeah. Oh, right.
Yeah, same time.
Wow.
So early August, I think, and then she was born, the year after. So,
Oh, that's beautiful.
yeah, I was pretty lucky. So made my decision to retire.
It's just blessings everywhere, really.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So I think, so it sounds like it's obviously there's a lot of fruit there. I know that you've done, more recently, you've done a lot of F45 and
Yep.
you've been competing in F45 and you've started to push towards CrossFit. But I suppose getting told you're not good enough and getting knocked back several times.
Yeah,
And it sounds like even
quite a
after
lot.
you've proved yourself,
Yeah.
getting knocked back, and then opening a business, I suppose, are you still an athlete?
Yeah, I like to think so. It's probably what I'm kind of chasing, what I'm doing now.
What are you chasing?
I want to make the CrossFit Games. It's a goal that, a very minimal amount of humans can do.
Yep.
Obviously, I want to do it in a Masters region because I've only been to make the games at an open level. You need to be doing the sport for multiple years.
Yes.
Multiple years. And I'm learning new stuff like at the moment, there's stuff that I've never learnt before, and there's stuff that I've hadn't done before that there needs to be redefined.
Right.
So that's something I'm changing now. But you can be, for me, the athlete name can be overused.
Okay.
But it's also a mindset for me. Like you can be a professional athlete, or you can kind of be an athlete in your own right, but you need to have everything in order to be an athlete. You can't go to Macca's drive-through and then go
and call yourself an athlete.
You need to be able to sleep. You need to be able to eat well. You need to be able to understand your body, live the lifestyle. But I like to think, like obviously not getting paid doing what I'm doing. A lot of time, a lot of commitment. Paying for my coach, which understands me, which is really cool. But so that's kind of what I'm doing at the moment after and funny enough, like getting knocked back so much earlier on in rugby has kind of drip fed into like my mindset at the moment. So I'm doing a lot of self work, a lot of mindset work, a lot of NET therapy, which is
NET,
which is really cool. I'm finding that
what is that?
Really helpful.
Neuro-emotional technique.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it just kind of helps deal with past traumas, and whether it be something that's going on now, there's an original event where it's occurred from,
right?
And a lot of my traumas are based around like family and my stepdad, which I spoke about, but rugby. Rugby's caused a lot of trauma of being told you're not good enough, and that's transitioned into my training.
Right.
So I'll get to a point where I say do a 10-minute AMRAP, and I'll be like, sweet, I can do 6 rounds here easy.
Yes.
And I'll get to the 4th half round and go, I'm not good enough to do this. I'm not good enough to get to 6.
Right.
And it might not be the front of, like, I'm not in your head, right, obviously, but it might not be those words. It might be, my fucking shoulder.
Yeah. Spot on. It's like, my quads there's lactic acid in my quads.
Yes.
Or I'm not breathing right. I'll just have to stop. Or my back feels a bit weird.
Yes.
Something like that.
And my often legs, I see that. So it's that's the thing that I'm not good enough thing.
Yeah.
That fear of belief, or that lack of belief, self-worth, that fear of failure. The people that are 2 weeks out from an event that have this crippling injury, that they could have had a crippling injury this whole time. You've decided to have a niggle 2 weeks before.
Yeah, and that's the thing that separates
them.
Especially in CrossFit, because CrossFit is more than anything like a pain tolerance
massively
sport, right? Like, and you know as well, Nico and myself, like seeing CrossFitters who are at a high level, the one thing that separates a lot of them is their ability to put themselves in a position where they're in a lot of pain and stay there. Yeah. And that takes a certain type of mindset, right? And probably what you're talking about, Dave, like it takes an athlete mindset, right?
Yeah, it does. There's and I tell my clients this whenever we do an F45 session or make things really hard, or we do, F45 games and stuff like that. There's 2 types of mindsets I see in my studio. I've got a couple of police officers in my studio, and I think one's in the gang squad and one's in the drug squad, and they're next. And I've got a few military as well. They're next level up here.
Yes,
they're next level, like dedicated focus. And you see it in their training. Yeah, it's like, all right, I'm going to push you a little bit harder, and they're like, okay, let's do it. And there's other people, your everyday Joes, who are there to tick a box and move, which is fantastic. So happy that they're doing something. And the flip side, there's athletes, and those athletes have the ability to go, all right, sweet, I'm going to flick it on. We're going to move fast. It's going to hurt, but once you're done, there's no more pain.
Yeah.
Like you're recovering, and the best bit of, or not so much advice, but the thing I try to think about, if you're training and it's hard for 10 minutes, you're going to feel exactly the same at the 15-minute mark as if you tried really hard for 10 minutes, or if you tried at a medium level for 10 minutes. You're going to recover and you're going to feel exactly the same.
Once it's done.
5 minutes later, 10 minutes later, you're going to feel the same.
I feel like sometimes,
regardless of how hard you go.
Yeah. I feel like sometimes CrossFit may over-reward that as well.
That's interesting.
On the flip side.
Yeah, I think so too.
Yeah. I think that they're, and we're about to ask you a question of, well, how are you meant to train? I suppose when it comes to the flip side, sorry, what was I saying? The members of the gym, your general cohort, your Gen Pop, CrossFit definitely at large encourages intensity.
Oh, massively.
And that intensity is, and probably F45 does too, to some extent, I'd say.
Depends on the owners, yeah.
Yeah. Now, what percentage of your Gen Pop do you think are ready for that type of intensity?
3.
Yeah, like 3%.
If that.
Like such a small percent. If you see someone completely screwed on the floor and they get high fives and it's a lot of cheerleading, celebrating the fact that all your members are screwed now, and that's because they worked so hard. Do you think how long do you think that candle can burn for? Like before?
Mate, I see with my clients, so I don't jump in studio anymore.
Okay.
Because, well, for a good thing, they'll all end up here.
You don't jump?
There's a lot of plyometrics up there to 45.
Yep.
Yeah. I kind of take it away because it's not conducive to your everyday.
No.
Yeah.
I wouldn't even say everyday athlete. I'd say your everyday, mother, father, husband, wife, son, daughter. It doesn't last long. It lasts. There's a 6 to 8 week period where people end up going, I've got a problem in my knee, or I've got a problem in my lower back.
Yes.
And CrossFit gets a bad name. F45 gets a bad name because of knees and backs because of that jumping.
Yes.
Which we eliminate. So in terms of our clientele retention and our percentage of clients turning up to train, we're doing pretty good, really well. And I think CrossFit gets a really bad name because you get a lot of injuries from CrossFit. Inverted commas, you can't see. I see the video in inverted commas. It gets a bad name because everyone tries to race to that finish line. So they lose all snatch technique, they lose all clean technique, they lose all deadlift technique, they lose whatever they're doing at the time. They lose it all because they don't know. Back to your question at the top. They don't know how to train.
Yes.
Or they're not taught how to train.
Yeah. Definitely.
And they also, a lot of the time, they don't know how to race against the clock properly.
Yeah.
Either they're trying to do snatches too quickly.
Yeah.
But they forget that the stimulus, what's the stimulus we're trying to achieve? It actually doesn't matter who wins. It's the stimulus that we're trying to achieve. That's the point.
Funny you say that. So I trained in my class on Friday morning. I turned up and I take Friday mornings off. So I went and trained at 6:30 class and turned up. And at the end of the session, I just trained, not nice, smooth session. I said to a couple of boys, all right, we're going to do a little finisher. We're going to do a 500-metre row. We're going to go off the row, go for a block run, and we're going to finish with 20 burpees.
Yes.
All right?
Sick.
And I said, pace yourself. Don't try and break a world record on the rower, and then we'll finish at a similar time. So I've done the rower, and then bloke next to me, Matty, trying to break the world record. He's rowing at like 128, 134. I'm just sitting at 145. Just nice, smooth strokes.
Yeah, that's not smooth for me, buddy.
Sorry. He's gone, and then he's gone.
So for me, it'd be about 215.
Yeah. He's gone to 145. Then he's gone to 155. Then he's gone 135, and then he's gone to 210.
He ended up finishing at the same time anyway.
Oh no, he ended up finishing
way later.
65 seconds behind me.
Disgusting.
Yeah. I was like, mate, and that's the thing. What are you trying to achieve? Well, you're not trying to sprint to the finish line. You're working at different stimulus.
Yes.
I know from my own personal experience with CrossFit, when it's the people who are attracted to CrossFit can sometimes be very competitive, and then when you've got a workout that's defined as for time or AMRAP, those imply 100%, right? Like they imply that you go until you can't.
I wonder what they said. What they would say is if you just said you've got 20 minutes to do this.
Well, that's
if they just said that.
Yeah, 100%.
Rather than try and do this
in 6 minutes.
Yeah. And like that way, it's like you can still like if it's a 20-minute workout, that's an aerobic workout.
Yeah.
Like if you're going to be in aerobic state, then I mean obviously there's science behind this, but you've got to sit 65 to 75% of your max heart rate.
Yeah.
The whole time, not try and win.
Yeah.
Because if you try and win, you're going to go past your anaerobic threshold.
Yeah, definitely. Crash
and then you've changed the stimulus completely.
Yeah. Well, separate from that as well, where do you see people go wrong in the other side of it, which is recovery, nutrition?
Oh, everywhere. Recovery, I'm still learning.
Yes.
And I still need to adapt, and that's one of my work-ons.
What's new there?
What's new in regards to
your recovery?
For me?
Yeah.
Doing it.
Oh, you weren't doing any recovery?
Well, I wasn't taught how to recover. It was not a learning learning experience on how to recover.
Jacko's just dropped a glass of water.
Castle Hill Pool.
Mate, he's wet all the cords. This is the shit show over here. What's going on here, Jacko? Yeah, let's keep talking, Dave.
Yeah, so I wasn't taught how to recover.
Right.
So I wasn't taught how to work on mobility. I wasn't taught how to stretch and roll. I wasn't taught the importance of sleep. I wasn't taught that meditation could be good for you. I wasn't taught the mindset.
Man, how much did you leave on the table here as an athlete? If it's unmeasurable.
Probably 30%.
Yeah,
60% natural ability. Or maybe let's say 50% natural ability, 20% hard work, 30% recovery, knowledge and content. But now, mate, now there's a huge importance on my sleep thanks to my Whoop, our Whoop.
Yep.
Huge importance on sleep.
Yes, I notice you're a fan of the Whoop. It's
big
good.
Fan of the
Very
Whoop.
good. Very good.
Whoop /Dave Harvey 17 for your link. But yeah, no, like the best ways to recover for me, depends what you're working. If it's an heavy upper body session, heavy lower body session, spend 5 to 8 minutes, and that's all it takes. Have a nice little roll through your shoulders, through your shoulder girdles, through your hips, through your hammies, whatever it is. But sleep.
Yes.
Sleep is key.
So how many hours a night are you getting?
Not enough.
Well, you've got a child.
Monday, Wednesday, Friday, a little bit sporadic, but Thursdays, I like to get to bed at 7:30, 8 o'clock.
Wow, that is so early.
Yeah. So
what day of the week do you do that?
Thursday nights.
Oh, right. Okay.
Yeah, that's why this can't go for too much longer.
Yeah.
I've got to get to bed.
Yes.
But no, recovery's...
Well, we nearly finished it when I spilled that water
Yeah,
over
that's
the
right.
laptop.
If you have no time to recover, make sure you sleep.
Yes.
Use sleep as your recovery. Apart from that, it all comes down to food. You eat well, that's recovery. It's food for performance.
So how would you prioritize this? So if you've got food, sleep, and mobility or recovery post workout, what would you say would be the absolute no-brainer? You have to get this right.
All of them. But if you had to delete one...
I'm not happy with that answer.
if you had to delete one, you'd take out the mobility.
Okay.
Because sleep is a non-negotiable.
Okay.
Because it just sets your whole mindset. If you've got enough sleep, enough recovery, and your Whoop's in the green, if you don't have a Whoop, if you're feeling good in the morning... you tune to the day, you tune to your clients, you guys, you're picking injuries up, you're seeing something that you're not supposed to be seeing.
100%.
Sure.
Yeah.
So if you had a choice between terrible diet today or a great sleep? I
would take the good diet.
Okay. Why?
And have a shitty sleep.
Why?
Because a bad diet has a flow-on effect. Your gut's your second brain.
Yes.
So you can undersleep and have an okay mindset, but if you eat shit food and have a good sleep, you're still going to feel crap for the next 24 hours.
Yeah. And I guess sleep, it comes down to the chronic undersleeping as well, doesn't it? Like one night, I guess not too bad. If you're stringing together a lot of nights where you're 6-7 hours.
In other words, you've got to dial it in.
Yeah. You have to. And you've got to get your rhythm going.
Would you recommend, I suppose, how old are you now?
38.
So you're 38. You don't look a day over 25.
Thank you. I haven't shaved yet either.
No, that's okay. It's it adds to the ruggedness.
Yeah, thank you.
But you obviously don't look 38. That's still young anyway. I'm not far off. But in terms of...
You don't look 38 either, mate.
No, I don't.
And you're not 38. So.
I hope I don't, although I feel 58. Obviously, longevity is a big part of this.
Yeah.
When did you start dialing this in? As in your health or wellness?
Probably when I met Cassie, to be honest. Probably 2014, 15.
Okay.
She kind of changed my views on how food should be seen.
Okay.
I started eating actually pretty healthy from what I thought was healthy, which it was.
Yes.
From an aesthetics point of view, I was kicking goals.
Yes.
From a gut health and whole food angle, I had a lot to learn.
Okay.
So probably about 4 or 5 years ago, and more recently, probably when we had Callie, so the last 3 and a bit years, mate, I'm like a food, I wouldn't say Nazi, but like, I always tell people you can always be fitter. If you're fit, you can be fitter. If you're strong, you can be stronger. If you eat well, you can always eat better.
Yes.
There's no matter what you do, you can always be better at something. There's never too much knowledge and content to learn.
How would you define how you eat then? Like, what's your nutritional sort of overarching standpoint?
Like, I eat organic, all organic food, all organic meats. No pesticides, no added hormones, no
So you get
added
them from
crap.
a special place?
Yeah. So we get our food from this lovely Asian business in Kellyville.
Okay.
He delivers all our food every Saturday morning in our boxes. So we just direct deposit in his bank. He's a little farm there. And then we get our meats either from Coles or Woolies. They've got a little organic section, or we get it from Doorsteps Organics.
Yep.
And that's the angle. We don't do dairy. We don't do gluten. We get all our other stuff from like bulk whole foods, like all our almond meal and, rice and stuff like that. So like my rice and my potatoes, and which I got to because I'm doing CrossFit, I'll die.
Yes. You've got to get the calories somehow.
Yeah. So, but that's the angle we're taking. That's the angle we eat. No preservatives. So in order, so you're going back to that order of sleep, in order of food, if you had said, what would you delete from your food, preservatives, dairy or gluten? I'd delete preservatives first, and I'd have gluten and dairy every single day before I'd have any preservatives.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Why is that?
Your body can't break it down. Why is there a word on an ingredient packet that you can't pronounce?
100%.
And why is there a number? A number's not a food.
I agree with that. I do not live by that.
Yes.
I would
Whilst
second
you
that.
open, say, Cadbury's favourite flake.
I have a...
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Would you like one?
No, thanks.
My diet's a lot of numbers.
Yeah. But that's. I just
I'm on
think
the numbers diet.
I just think it's logical. Health's logical. Training's logical. Recovery's logical.
Yes.
Eating's logical. Longevity's logical.
Comes down to learning.
It comes down to learning, but it's just a lot of people don't know it. And that's the hardest things, because what they see on MSN, what they see on their newspapers and Instagram, you can train and look like this, but you can also have this. Like, shut up, whatever your name is. Like,
Yes.
You probably can, but your blood work's not going to be good. Your gut health's not going to be good. Your mindset not going to be good.
Yeah.
Your anxiety and depression levels are not going to be good.
Yeah. The reality is the way you eat's just not easy. It's well, it might be for you now, but which is where
it's not convenient.
It's definitely the right way.
It's not
but there's
convenient,
quicker.
no.
There's quicker ways.
You've got to be
I guess.
planned and prepared.
It's not hard. I wouldn't say it's easy.
So how did you dial this up, Dave?
But I wouldn't say it's hard.
Did you go hammer and tongs, get it all right all at the same time, or did you gradually?
No, I experimented. I did fasting. I did keto. I did paleo. I did everything you can think of. I actually put weight on fasting because you're supposed to lose weight, but I put weight on.
Interesting.
Great for regeneration of cells, by the way.
Sure.
But the best and easiest. I've done a lot of learning in probably the last 12 months on
Right.
food hygiene, so minimal ingredients, chewing your food. I don't snack anymore. Breakfast, lunch, dinner only, and then I'll eat after I train.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's all I do. Better for your gut health. So what I try and tell my clients, like from a food point of view, if you're obviously, like I said before, if your gut's healthy, your head's healthy.
Yep.
But if if I made you guys squat every single day,
Yes.
your legs will not recover.
Well,
And your
100%.
third,
Definitely.
Yes.
your second session, your third session, your fourth session, your fifth session, it's going to get worse.
Yes.
It's the same with your gut when you eat. So if you're having breakfast, morning tea, lunch, afternoon tea, dinner, dessert, your gut's a muscle. You're not giving your gut enough time to recover, to break down the nutrients, break down the food, and you're just piling them on top.
Okay.
Wow.
Lethargic,
Especially if it's all
tired.
preservative and
Yeah.
you can't break it down.
100%.
How is your smooth muscle? Now you said gut is a muscle.
Yeah.
The smooth muscle going to, and all the filtration, and all the cells that are meant to drag out all the nutrients. What nutrients?
Yeah.
Trying to
That's a good point.
that would be like putting in a slab of clay to try and draw out the nutrients when there aren't any, and it's just
And
like
that's
exhausting your system.
just a
That's
simple approach
that was,
I tell
that was a
clients,
terrible
yeah.
example, by the way, but yeah.
It works.
We get
Clay's
you.
hard to get out.
Yeah, cool. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Awesome. Some good lessons there.
So, if you're going to sort of give some advice to a listener,
Do we have listeners? There's listeners?
I hope so.
Yeah, sweet. Good. Just so you
Well, the point. Otherwise, this has been a great
It's been
conversation.
great, yeah.
We really didn't need the microphone in there.
Yeah. We just had a little tea party, a grown-up tea party.
Yeah, good.
What would you say your top 5 things are on how to be healthy?
Yeah, food, number one.
Yep.
Understand the importance of food. I wouldn't say the timing for it. A lot of people say it's timing and a diet and this and stuff like that, etc. Just food in general.
But if there's one thing to work on with food,
Whole foods.
whole foods.
Cool.
Nothing out of a packet.
Okay. Try that. Try that for a
Don't
week.
shop in the middle aisle at Woolies.
Okay.
Simple.
Okay.
That's
enough.
probably the first one.
Yep.
Like clean whole foods. Know yourself. So know what you respond to in terms of your food and your training.
Yep.
You know, for instance, I work better when I don't eat and I train.
Okay.
Some people work better when they eat and train.
Yes.
So
Figure that
learn your little things. You know,
Mm.
what works better for you when you to fall asleep and whatnot.
Comes down to experimentation.
Yeah. Try new. Third thing will probably be try new things in training and in I guess in food. It always comes back to food. Sleep well would be 4, and number 5. Don't try and win the race.
Yeah. Love it.
In life and in training, but you can play that in everything. So a lot of people don't. A lot of people try and win the race in their diet, and a lot of people try to win their race in their training. Like you're going to come first today, but you're going to be broken on Thursday.
Yeah. Yeah.
So don't. And I've learnt that in the last year and a half in my training. It's like, sweet. I couldn't power clean 70 kilos
Yes.
like properly,
Yes.
and it was frustrating the hell out of me because I could bench press 160.
Yeah.
I was like, why can't I lift this up and squat
Yeah.
it? Like, what's going on? So I slowed it down, got my mindset right, and now, you know, I'm probably pushing. My goal was to hit 130. I'm pushing 140, 150.
Yeah.
But that's because of doing the little things right to get there and tying everything together.
Because you haven't tried to win the race.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it really sounds like there's I love those 5 because that also captures a lot of just basic lifestyle factors as well, like food and sleep.
Yeah.
I love the fact that you encouraging experimentation and getting to know yourself and like knowing what works for you. Who cares about why yet?
Yeah.
It just, is that how you function? Then that's how you function. Don't worry about the textbook.
Yeah.
For sure.
So algebra, who cares why x equals 24?
One of the
It
things
just
that
does.
I know, exactly. One of the things that I noticed when I got the whoop
Yep.
is exactly number 5. Don't try and win the race. I started trying to. I got like I'm in part of this group. There's no way I'm joining your group. Piss off. And literally, I was like, it made me competitive.
Yeah.
Problem. Now I look back on. I've got about 2 months of data. And I noticed that if I exceed a certain level of strain 2 days in a row, my recovery plummets.
The knock-on effect, yeah.
Yeah.
You know what's really funny about recovery as well? So I've had okay sleeps in the last couple of nights, and my recovery's been really good. 93 today, 86 yesterday. But
Awesome.
the nights before that, Cassie's having a tough time. She's 37 and a half weeks pregnant.
Oh,
Having
wow.
a really tough time.
That's come
yeah,
quick.
really close.
Sheesh.
Like 3-4 weeks. And so she went to bed a little bit stressed. Now, when Cassie's stressed, I'm stressed. I'm
Right.
anxious. I had an hour and a half longer sleep on both those nights.
Yes.
And my recovery was 30% less.
Because of stress.
So mindset.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Yeah, because that happened to Kat today. Her recovery is 60 something, and
Yeah.
she had 100% sleep.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
So it's like, and she didn't train hard yesterday,
Yeah.
which
for
is
sure.
interesting.
Full on.
So,
All
well,
right.
Davo, it's been a pleasure.
Mate, absolute pleasure.
Thanks
Loved
for
it.
coming.
Yeah,
on.
thanks for coming, man.
Thank
It's been
you.
unreal.
And how can you've got your own podcast?
Yep. Soon to be, I guess, tweaked around.
Yep.
So spewing with Dave at the moment. Was spewing with Tim and Dave, but at the moment he's very, very busy man.
Yep.
Yeah. So that'll come on air probably in the next couple of weeks.
Yep.
And yeah, that's it. And just, you know, if you want anything, you can just flick me a message on Instagram maybe.
What's your Instagram handle?
Dave Harvey 17.
Dave Harvey 17.
Yeah.
Love it. Well,
Happy
thanks for
to
coming, mate. It's been awesome hearing your story.
Pleasure.
Professional sport, CrossFit, business, fatherhood, everything. So it's been a pleasure, mate.
Love it. Thank you.
Cheers.